I'm foundationally trained in DBT, so I do not only the individual DBT, but I do the DBT skills in a group setting. Right now I'm running one track of the adult BHIOP. I'm also an intake specialist, so I do the intakes for people who need the BHIOP services and determining whether or not they're an appropriate fit for that program, and then I have a very small caseload. So I think the best answer would be, as I like to see people change, but I also really see the value in being a source of support and validation for people. I think a lot of times when people come to us is because they've had a history of invalidation, and so for some people this is the first time that they've experienced a safe place where they can be seen and heard, and so that's a really special gift to be that person as a place of support for those who are struggling. I love running groups. That's probably, I think, what I'm best at. There was a point in time, I was talking to Andres about it the other day, there was a point in time where I was running 5 different groups at once. So I had multiple groups, different days of the week, and it was just really fun. It's fun to be really dynamic. It's fun to interact with multiple people at once. And some of those groups were families. So there's a lot of people in the room, a lot of dynamics happening. But it's just really fun and interesting for me. And I feel like an expert in DBT skills, so it's fun to be the expert in the room. Somebody who is who's good at collaborating with all kind of treatment providers. So me being the therapist, what makes me good at my job is collaborating with the med provider, with anybody else on the treatment team, with family members, with schools, with stakeholders. So really somebody who's trying to get at the person from a lot of different angles, and make sure that person is getting the best treatment possible, and somebody who's willing to advocate for their client. I think kind of going back to the validation piece is really being somebody who is a safe place for an individual to feel seen and heard. And if that's all that I do, I think that's enough. Because validation really is kind of like the core and the key to healing. This might not be the best answer, but 3 of my friends from grad school work here, and so it makes work really fun. And so I love working with my friends. It really doesn't get any better than that. I think Sage is really unique in that we see people who other places in town don't want to see or don't have the ability to see. We see people who are really struggling, and we're not fearful of that. We will see people at wherever they're at. I also think Sage is really unique in that we provide so many different aspects of treatment. So not only the individual therapy side, but the medication management, primary care. We also have specialty services, and then the groups are really unique to Sage, and the IOPs. I think those are really cool that we do. I think number one thing that I find is that people tend to come to Sage with some kind of contact with healthcare and mental health services, and whenever I ask people, like, do you know what your diagnosis is? They don't. And what everybody should know is if you have contact with mental health services, you have a diagnosis, and you deserve to know what that is. It makes you better able to self-advocate if you know kind of what your symptoms are and what the mental health system is kind of categorizing you in. That being said, I also think it's important for people to know that you are not your diagnosis, and that just because you have this kind of label, it doesn't really mean that you have to live up to that. You can break free of that. I think that knowing what your diagnosis means really helps in advocating for yourself, knowing what kind of care is best for you, but also knowing that that does not have to define you.